Hi, I'm Gigguk, and I just spent $400 for a fucking JPEG!
The world of mobile games is a weird and twisted one that generally doesn't conjure up the best of images. Misleading ads, basic gameplay, generic sponsorship reads from some bullshit YouTuber trying to make a quick buck. Yo, why you focus on me? Go back to the game foot! It's a space that's been memed and mocked by pretty much the entire gaming community, but in the past few years a subgenre of the mobile gaming world has been gaining a lot of popularity. Gacha games. Fate Grand Order, As Your Lane, Fire Emblem Heroes, Dokkan Battle. If you've been hanging around the anime community for long enough, I'm sure you've at least heard of one of these, because you know someone who sold their soul to one of these games, and if not, you've definitely seen hentai doujinshis of them.
Because there's a lot of them. Like a lot of hentai. And it's really good as well. I don't know what point I was trying to make.
While gacha isn't limited to anime, a huge portion of weebs are playing them, and they're making numbers that can't be ignored. As of right now, Fate Go has made over $4 billion and was the most talked about game on Twitter in 2019, beating out the likes of Smash Bros, Final Fantasy, and Fortnite. While I've personally dabbled in them, I've always stopped myself from getting in too deep because of my preconceived perceptions. Talk to anyone in the community and it's always about salt, spending money, and self-deprecating memes. Do a quick Google search and you see articles about stories of addiction, the man who spent $70,000 on Fate Go, or another guy who spent over $6,000 getting one character in Grand Blue Fantasy. It's kinda mental. Basically, almost everything you hear makes you wonder why anyone would even want to get into these games, so most of the information I've gotten from the various references I've made in my videos have been through talking to many of my friends over their experiences with it. But I wanted to change that. I wanted to see what the deal with these games were, despite a community that seemed to be built on a foundation of sodium chloride. Inform those of you who've never played before what the gacha game experience is actually like, and really pin down how and why people could spend a large amount of money to become whales. Why would anyone actually spend hundreds of dollars for a PNG? Is the secret really just cute anime girls? This is my journey into the bottomless pit that is Gacha Hell.
Hell is only a word. The reality is much, much worse. Let me show you.
I am never gonna financially recover from this.
Now you may be thinking, wow, Gigguk, that was a really long intro, but are you sure you didn't just make this video as an excuse to fund your addiction for cute anime girls? No. This was for science. Science. I really wanted to immerse myself in the world of gacha, but to understand the whale, I needed to become the whale. Breathe its air, swim in its ocean, consume the same diet of high-rarity SSR anime titties. So I set to myself a budget of $1,000, which by everyday standards seems way too much money to be spending on anime PNGs.
It wasn't. And in the wide world of gacha, it's not really that much at all. We'll get back to that later.
But first, a quick word from today's sponsor who funded me on this stupid endeavor.
No one! I did this. I did this to me. But for real though, even though I could have been sponsored by many of the games I'm about to talk about, I decided against it. Because I didn't want any sponsorships to be able to influence what I can say in this video, and more importantly, I didn't want you to think that anything I did say in this video has been affected. In other words, I am not making my money back in this video. I just thought it would be funny for you to see me blow $1,000.
So with that said, here were the ground rules. I wouldn't play any game I've been sponsored by before for the same reasons, and I wouldn't spend money for the sake of spending money. I didn't want to just blindly throw cash away for no reason, but if there was something I really wanted, I would truly try to get it and not limit my spending like I would usually do.
Basically, if I was going to whale, I needed a reason to whale. So with that in mind, I set up a fresh PayPal account, put $1,000 in it, and I would just play until the money ran out. This really did sound like a good idea in my head when I started this video.
Before we go any further though, for those of you not in the know, I should probably explain what a gacha game even is. The term gacha game refers to the digital implementation of the gachapon. The Bandai trademark capsule toy dispenser. They're kind of like toy vending machines that you can find essentially all over Japan. The basic principle is that you have a standard pool of prizes which you can insert money into to get one of them, with no guarantee of which one it would be. If it's not the one you were aiming for, then tough luck, you gotta put more money in and try again. It was only a matter of time before someone had the bright idea to implement this on a wider scale digitally, and that's exactly what's happened. Dragon Collection is often credited as being the first gacha game. It was a card battle game where you'd amass prize by playing a game and completing quests and opening chests, but that's not really important because what's really important is that it made Konami a shit ton of fucking money. Nowadays, modern gacha games implement a wide range of different systems, but the core mechanics remain the same, using some form of digital currency, whether it be earned through playing the game or with real money or both, to pull from a finite pool of prizes to obtain units or equipment that can be used in-game, which can be referred to as rolling or pulling or summoning. So basically, when you hear about gacha games and you hear about a bunch of grown-ass men sinking their life savings to obtain a super rare PNG of their favorite anime girl, this isn't true at all. They sink their money into the chance of obtaining a super rare PNG of their favorite anime girl, which is far more logical. And that was the world I was about to enter.
The first step was choosing a gacha game to play, which was definitely an easy choice.
To say that there are a lot of gacha games is like saying that there are a lot of stars in the sky, or Fate has a reasonable number of anime adaptations. There's pretty much a game for every niche and popular franchise, from turn-based strategy to rhythm games, card games, classic JRPGs, so I wasn't exactly lacking in choice. I wanted to experience the spectrum, so initially I made a list of about 7 games that I wanted to try out from various different genres and franchises, so I downloaded them all and said, alright, let's get started. So I was a fucking idiot. In my mind, I thought this was gonna be easy. Download some anime games, blow a bunch of cash trying to obtain some big fat anime titties, document my results, wham bam, get them easy YouTube views. But then I quickly realized that by far the biggest investment I would have to give wasn't actually money. It was time. So me being the genius that I was, starting 7 games at once, at the beginning my days would look something like this.
Alright, time to do my daily missions. Okay, time to sleep.
These aren't the types of games you can marathon for 40 hours and complete. They are designed to be played in small bursts for a very long time. After about a week I was in serious danger of burning out or getting admitted to a psychiatric hospital, so I cut my losses and whittled it down to 3 games that stood out to me the most. Arknight, Dragalia Lost, and Raid Shadow. I'm just fucking with you. It was Fate-Go, okay?
Why Fate-Go? Because the Jinxis are better in context, okay? There, I said it. Are you happy? While 3 games wasn't the initial sample size I was hoping for, I feel it was more than enough to give me a general idea of the structure, because whatever the gameplay, the basic gacha formula was always identical.
The beginning of every gacha game hits you with this sensory overload with enough shiny notifications to make you feel like an ADHD diagnosed magpie after doing a line of coke. It is just a cluster of information overload. Even now, look at some of the menus of some fresh gacha games I'm not familiar with and I think to myself, so where the fuck am I supposed to click to start playing the game? I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to be doing, but apparently it didn't matter because no matter what you click or what you end up doing, the game will reward you with enough virtual currency to rival a Nigerian prince. Free gold, free gems, free material. I didn't know what half the things were for, what I could buy, whether the game was trying to butter me up with resources, or if I had just found myself in a Mr. Beast video. This is what I call the welfare stage of a gacha game. At this point, it doesn't really matter what you do. You can pretty much play the game for as much as you want with no worry and just enjoy the game for the game. If you think this generosity will last forever, however, well, eventually you're gonna hit the wall. After a few weeks, you'll find that you're missing some kind of resource that inhibits your ability to progress further. Your first instinct is to probably assume that you need better units or you don't have enough daily stamina, which in gacha games is the resource that's used when you play it. But what I found was that it was the materials that would enable you to level up your units to a point where they were strong enough to take on mid to late game content. And you know, forget everything you've heard about the gacha game experience from secondhand conversations, because this is where the real gacha experience begins. Let's talk about farming.
When people mention gacha games, they always talk about spending money and rolling for their waifus, but for some reason, nobody really talks about the actual activity you'll be spending most of your time doing.
See, when you think of traditional JRPGs, the more you play the game, the more you grind, the more EXP you gain to level up your characters. But in gacha games, you have to use some kind of resource to do this. And then to level up your characters beyond certain points, you notice that you need special materials that haven't just been gifted to you in the welfare period. So you start doing research about how to get them, and then you notice that if you replay certain stages, there's a percentage that these materials will be dropped, which we refer to as a drop rate. So you start replaying the same stage over and over to get the materials you need, and this can take time. And so you start thinking, I wonder if there's a way to optimize this. Now you could deteriorate your brain farming the same stage for days, or you could wait for special events where rare materials are given away at a much more generous rate that you can get by doing more farming! This is where the game turns from casual time sinker to part-time job, as you spend as much stamina as you possibly can to take advantage of the fact that you can get Ariran blocks in a few minutes rather than a few days, basically making farming a higher priority than any life essential activity. And thank you Arknights for calling your stamina sanity, because mine definitely needed refreshing after farming your summer events for 2 weeks straight.
People often talk about getting too deep into gacha games, and I thought, oh yeah, that's probably when they start spending their life savings trying to get the newest shiny SSR units. So here I was, thinking I was getting into a glorified waifu collector, open wallet, ready to spend some cash to get that 2D ass. And then when I finally got into it, what I've really found myself doing was researching how to get certain materials, looking up guides, and then somewhere along the lines I ended up thinking to myself, how the fuck did a game about collecting waifus end up with me looking at a spreadsheet of percentage drop rates of different stages and precise farming guides for events so I can maximize my daily stamina so I can get the materials that I wanted? And that was the exact moment I realized I was in too deep. Now I've realized that I've been talking for about, 2,500 words already, and I haven't made gacha games sound like the most appealing prospect. And I think I'm starting to understand why the community is so self-deprecating, because I legitimately had a fun time playing them.
One of the biggest problems mobile games have is that it's really hard to make them look exciting from an outsider perspective. Like, aside from something like Honkai Impact 3, you can't really have an epic gaming montage that's like,
Gart, what are you doing?
I'm gaming. So I know, the gut reaction when you hear anyone talking positively about these kinds of mobile games is to assume that it's some kind of sponsored ad read. But I'm not lying when I say a lot of these games are actually really fun and have legitimately interesting gameplay. But that can be really hard to tell at first. And that's because beginning content is so easy, it can pretty much be played by a paraplegic toddler wearing a blindfold, inputting controls with a USB steering wheel, and they could still do a full 3-star clear without breaking a sweat. So it's really hard to gauge the depth of the gameplay without putting a considerable amount of time in yourself to get to later game content. Like, okay, let's take Arknights as an example. On the surface, it looks like a pretty simple tower defense game with anime waifus. Pick up your units, plop them down, and sit back, let it autoplay, and just watch some anime PNGs beat the shit out of each other. But as you start progressing, the game keeps throwing new elements at you. There are new enemy types, new tiles, you can start placing blocks down. Every unit has a different specialty and different ability which can be activated manually during the game. You have limited deployment points, and if you let a unit die, you completely lose all those points, so sometimes retreating a unit at just the right moment is the difference between winning and losing a stage. Throw this all together and you can sometimes get clutch moments where you feel like you're in a diamond ranked Korean StarCraft match with all the micromanaging that you're doing. And that to me was when the game started to get really fun, when you probably start learning the depths of the game mechanics, start strategizing, and having to perfectly execute your strategy in game. I didn't care too much about the story, but the challenge of clearing every stage kept me coming back. Aside from that, there are plenty of other reasons I had tons of fun with the other games. Dragalia Lost had some really good design all around, and the soundtrack was just fucking godly. No, seriously, it should be illegal for a mobile game to have a soundtrack this good, because to me, it's like the Persona 5 of gacha game soundtracks. Pretty much every track you hear, from the menu themes to the battle soundtrack, is a fucking banger, and I often just wanted to play the game just so I can listen to the music. And as for Fate Go, well, it was the oldest game, so the gameplay and design did feel a bit dated comparatively, and yet it was the game I got most invested in. And it's funny because I went into it thinking, oh, Fate? Yeah, I know Fate, where every female historical figure you've ever known is a hot girl, and every male historical figure you've ever known is a hot girl, and sometimes also a lolly. What else is there to know? But then I played and I'd forgotten that I had originally thought the entire premise of Fate was super interesting. I actually got really invested in the world again, and while the story starts off pretty generic, the later chapters develop into something comparable to the original visual novels.
So with all that said and done, you may have noticed that for a video titled I spent $1,000 on gacha games and you don't have to, I haven't talked much about spending money at all yet. And that's because at this point, I hardly had or felt the need to. I'd spent a fair amount of time playing these games already, and the only thing I had bought was the beginner pack from Arknights. I was legitimately concerned that I had gone about this video all wrong, and I wouldn't be able to spend close to the budget I set, even if I tried. And then there were some waifus I wanted. And it all went downhill from there.
Mobile games have been around for long enough that the general monetization model is pretty well known now, and I think because of that there's a stigma that a lot of these games are kind of pay to win. But with the specific games I played, I didn't really see that. With enough of an understanding, the games could be cleared with low rarity and free units. And there would always be a system where you could generate enough premium currency to be able to save up to get stronger units to help you. So aside from some super hard challenge modes, you aren't really locked out of any content by being free to play. And while there were EXP packs or the like that you can buy to help save you some time, I never really felt the need to spend huge amounts of money on them. I don't think there's a better example that illustrates this than Fate Go, because you cannot pay to get rid of any of the grinding. Getting stronger units doesn't even make the process go any faster, it just means you have to grind more to level them up. The only thing you can use your cash for is to refill your stamina, but nobody does this because it's far more efficient just to wait for special events when you are given a lot of rarer materials, and only a fucking madman would use their Saints Quartz for anything other than rolls. Why?
Because it's not pay to win. It's pay to waifu. And guess what I ended up spending most of the budget of this video on? That's right, we're like 15 minutes into this video right now, and I finally get to talk about spending money for some PNG waifus.
To some, it may blow your mind how a PNG could hold enough value that anyone would want to spend a significant amount of money to obtain it. But when you run this game continuously every day for a decent amount of time, where a large portion of that time is you watching your PNG units do PNG stuff, a decent looking PNG doesn't start to seem like a bad idea.
Basically, a whole load of things can happen to make the value of a PNG go up enough that you would want it. For example, after playing Arknights for a while, I saw this banner up and I thought, shit, I really want Texas because I had nothing better than a 4-star Vanguard on my team, so it's my weakest role that I had to fill out, and also, she's hot. And I also really wanted Lapland because she's one of the best guards in the game with the ability to silence, which is really, really useful for some of the later stages in the game, and also, she's hot. And then the Schwartz banner came out, and then, well, I didn't really need her, but she was in a swimsuit, and it was a summer event, and also, she's hot. Oh yeah, I should probably explain what a banner is.
Unlike a traditional gacha machine, the prize pool in virtual gachas are massive, so the chance of you getting the exact units you want by just randomly rolling is minuscule, especially if it's a high rarity unit. To offset this, gacha games normally have rotating banners, where certain units on the banner have a higher probability of showing up than usual. So instead of having an abysmal chance of rolling exactly who you want, you have a slightly less but still abysmal chance of rolling exactly who you want. Some people even plan months ahead, saving up their virtual currency for upcoming banners, which pretty much guarantees that you'll never ever get the character you're actually aiming for when you want them, in a universal mechanic called rate up is a lie. Or alternatively, you can be completely satisfied with everything you have before a hot new banner suddenly gets released and you just feel like... Which took me, inevitably, to the gacha itself. This is it, alright? This is what you're here for. Alright, who is it? Who is it? No! The one 5-star I didn't want from here. As much as I was enjoying the games, I knew there would come a point when I would have to sell my soul to the gacha lords, and so I started with Arknights. I bought the most expensive $99 premium currency pack to see what it would actually get me, and what the experience of rolling would actually be like. Now in Arknights, 6 stars is the highest rarity that you can go, and the chance of getting a 6-star is 2%, while the chance of getting a 5-star is a mere 4%. Did I get 2 6-stars? I didn't see! Nightingale, let's go. Holy fuck! Oh my god!
Oh,
I got both 6 stars in one roll. So this is me getting 2 6-star units and a 5-star unit in a single roll of 10. And I remember feeling like I was high on enough cocaine to OD a baby elephant, and that's when I realized, oh, this is dangerous.
I've been to a casino exactly 3 times in my life, and it was a okay experience. I don't think it was really my scene. So I can wholeheartedly say that getting the waifu you are aiming for felt way better than winning money. Why?
Come on, this is it. This is it. Yes!
you got locked.
Finally!
I have no fucking clue. It doesn't make any logical sense to me either, okay? Like, who even fucking needs this shit? Like, what can you do with this? Eat? pay rent, survive. It doesn't even have a fucking swimsuit edition. What the fuck's the point? And I know somewhere my brain's up here like, look dude, I know human evolution didn't create dopamine so you can get off at the sight of getting some SSR anime titties.
Which is why I think it is important to be aware of the possible dangers. It's easy to get addicted to the feeling of rolling, and with no limiter to how much money you can throw into the gacha system, this can pile up really quickly. Limited banners make you feel the urge to get a unit before it's not available anymore. It's a sales tactic that's as old as time, so you should definitely keep this in mind before starting to spend any money. Because if you don't keep track of it or set yourself a limit, you can find yourself spending far more than you really should.
But not every game is the same when it comes to the stinginess of the gacha system. With Dragalia Lost, it was just giving away free rolls and I was getting all the units I needed before I could even think about spending any money. And with Arc Knights, I feel it was a fair balance between me getting the units I was actually aiming for and me recklessly overspending because I didn't feel like I needed anything close to the most expensive pack that I bought.
But I had yet to take on the final boss of gacha summoning rates. That's right, Fate Go. In Fate Go, the chance of rolling for the highest rarity 5-star servants is 1%. So the chance of you actually rolling for the exact 5-star servant you want is less than 1%. And that's why to me, Fate is the final boss of gacha, and as much as I held it off, when I saw that there was a special Fate Apocrypha event coming up, and as someone who has watched Apocrypha and enjoyed it, I knew my time had come. There were some servants that I wanted. First up was Mordred. To me, she was always the superior saber because I've got a soft spot for spunky, arrogant anime girls, and also she's hot. And the second was, of course, Astolfo.
Look, it wasn't for the memes, okay? Just go watch Fate Apocrypha and tell me that Astolfo isn't cute as fuck, alright? Yes, I wanted Astolfo, okay? Because you know what? Sometimes it takes a real man to become best girl.
The targets were simple, Mordred and Astolfo. Anything else would be a nice little bonus. I'd saved up enough free Saints Quartz, which is the premium currency of the game. I streamed it on my Patreon Discord server so I could share my salt. I knew my chances, and I knew what was coming next.
Under overwhelming odds, there is only one thing I can do. I gotta whale the shit out of this.
Dear Gacha Lords, please bless this roll with good waifus and good gacha luck, and I will be a good weeb from now on, I swear to God. Mordred was a 5-star, so I thought it would be better to go for the harder one at first. So I started rolling, and... Oh! Come on! Yes! I got her on my second 10 roll. Oh my God! Come on!
So this was a good fucking roll.
Holy fuck!
I'm sure some of you Fate Go veterans will right now be cursing me for my luck because at this point I hadn't even spent any money. And looking back, I probably should have quit while I was ahead.
Should I have just given up while I was ahead and I was winning?
But all that was left was Astolfo, which was a lower rarity servant, so this was going to be easy. Right? So I rolled.
Oh my God. Why?
And I rolled again.
Another one!
Another one.
I've got it, 5 now.
And I rolled again.
Man, now that I'm doing this, $20 for 110 roll it's quite a lot.
And I kept rolling. But you know who I got? Not fucking Astolfo! But you know what? I wasn't gonna let that faze me. As Simon from Gurren Lagann once said, if it's not 0%, then it's basically the same as 100%. With a credit card. I think that was exactly what he said, don't quote me on that. So I knew what I had to do. It was time for me to stop holding back, take my training weights off, and power up to my final form. Forgive me, Wallet, but just this once, I must go all out.
Okay, if I'm doing this, I'm going all the way.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
It's funny because I have viewed this on the other side where I'm just like, why are you getting so excited over a fucking PNG? I don't get it. Did I get Jack? Am I in gacha heaven or gacha hell?
Never tell me the odds.
Oh, it's Saber. Oh, Siegfried. Not bad.
That's a lot of damage.
Oh, come on. Siegfried again? What the fuck? If it's Siegfried again, I'm gonna oh my God! Oh my God. This isn't fun.
We're done when I say we're done.
my god. That was a few weeks ago, and now I think I'm ready to put a stop in this journey.
Overall, I've spent $0 on Dragalia Lost, $150 on Ark Knights, and $650 on Fate Go. 400 of which was getting a Stolfo. $400. Fucking $400. He isn't even that good of a servant. It's a tier 3 4-star. I spent $400 on a dick!
In terms of value for money, I was pretty satisfied with what I got for Ark Knights. I spent way more recklessly than I normally would have, but I got pretty much everything I was aiming for and way more than I needed. And as for Fate, while I do have some pretty decent units to show for it, I do feel like it definitely wasn't worth the money I put into it. So, what did I learn from this journey?
Whoever said gacha games were like drugs was a fucking liar. Because drugs are way cheaper. But also, as hard as I tried, I couldn't spend the $1,000 in the time span I was given. Sorry guys, you got clickbaited. I already was prepared to spend the whole budget for this video, and if I had kept on playing for a few months, I'm sure there would have been some character or banner that would have caught my eye that would have made it easy for me to use up the remainder of the money. But I don't feel like it would have added anything more for the purpose of this video, so I didn't see the point of holding out.
I had a really fun time getting into these games. I'm way past the point where I needed to play them for the purposes of this video, and I'm still playing them. It definitely changed a lot of my perspective when it comes to mobile games and the reputation that they have. I came in cautious of the predatory monetization systems you hear about, and while I can definitely see some of it in action with some of the gacha systems, I was certainly surprised how little you hear about the positive experiences you can find here. I think you have to treat them differently than you do traditional games where you pay a set amount and you get a set experience. Because what impressed me the most is how flexible gacha games were. It really does cater to every kind of playstyle for every kind of player. You can legitimately get away with being a free-to-play player, investing just a small amount of time each day and be able to clear all the content that's available, eventually, while having a fun time doing so. There is hours and hours and hours of free content which has a lot of love and passion put into it, that you can enjoy without spending a single penny. But if you don't have the willpower, it is incredibly easy to start dumping large amounts of money into it. So I think the most important lesson is your mentality when approaching these games. If you know you have an addictive personality who wants to collect everything, it probably isn't the best idea for you to get into these games. And you should also never get into them with the intention of beating them, because that's almost fucking impossible. Instead, at best, I think you should come into these games with the mentality that they're just a casual time sink. A fun thing to do when you have a free few minutes to grind away with the occasional longer session if you want to play out the story or event quests. The amount you invest, both time and money, is completely up to you. So set yourself a limit, enjoy it in moderation, definitely don't spend beyond your means, and you'll have a pretty fun time.
In the grand world of gacha games, $1,000 is hardly anything, and there are people out there who spend thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars and still don't have everything that they want. So remember, there will always be a bigger whale. No matter how much you think you whale, you are merely a deformed dolphin swimming in your shitty little fish tank, while somewhere out there exists a leviathan or maybe a world serpent who digivolves into a galaxy-spanning Tengen Tupper Gurren Lagann. Who the fuck knows? Because no matter what your opinion of the gacha system is, if there's one thing I can appreciate is that it's nothing if not transparent. And that's why the culture to me makes complete sense. Much of the community is so self-deprecating because we knew exactly what we were getting into when we started this. We chose this. We did this to ourselves. So now I truly do know. That's hell I walked into. And now that this video is done and I have no more reason to stay in the gacha hell that I purposely threw myself into for the purpose of my own curiosity, I have just one problem. How the fuck do I get out? Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you very much to Anikong, Walto, the Weebology Podcast, Ivido, Zeke098, Joe Augustine, and everyone else on my Patreon for helping to support my gacha addiction. I mean, make this video possible. If you too would like to support my journey into gacha hell, then consider supporting me on Patreon too. For real though, I couldn't make a video like this without your support. I'm definitely not going to make the money back on this video, but that's fine. That's the reason I've been taking some extra sponsorships on the side, so I can be a bit more experimental on the content I'm making on a video like this. Because if you didn't notice, for the last month I didn't really upload anything, and that's because I was mainly using the time to explore new kinds of content like this. So don't think this is the only thing I've been working on. I'm really excited to show you the other things that I've used the time to experiment on. Because with so many anime being on break right now, I thought it would be the perfect time to take a short break from watching it myself, and so I've used this time to really try to explore new ideas that I've had for a while. So I hope you guys enjoy what I've been working on. But anyway, that's it from me. I've been Gigguk, and I will see you all next time, when I hopefully don't find another hole that I'm gonna fall into and have no idea how I'm gonna escape from. That's definitely not gonna happen.